Hello trainers, Professor Palm here, and when playing through the core series games, I gotta say, one of my favorite parts of the main story is taking on the villainous team. I really like how we take on the grunts, then we go up to the higher ups, either being the admins, the executives, or the commanders, and finally, we take on the boss. But what always makes me laugh most about the story is the fact that we're just a 10-year-old kid who just started our Pokemon journey and chose a starter Pokemon, and in all that time we've just been a starter for a few days, we topple a criminal organization that even the police in the world can't even seem to pinpoint or find one clue of evidence. When looking back at a bunch of criminal teams in the core series games, they always seem to specialize in the exact same kind of Pokemon. While not always the leaders, it is oftentimes the grunts who have poison, but as of Generation 2 and so on, many of them also seem to use a lot of Dark-type Pokemon. And I gotta say, these Pokemon are perfect for the teams, because sometimes they can be rather vile, and in Japan, Dark-type are known as Evil-type. While I'm sure that a lot of trainers out there want to use their Pokemon for good and also want to be the very best like many of you, there are sadly some people out there that want to use Pokemon for evil and have very horrible things in mind for them. Those are some of the most vile people out there. Speaking of which, what is that horrible smell? It smells like something let loose in here. Give me a second. I'm gonna put on a mask. It just smells horrible in here. Doesn't do much, but still. I think I'm gonna throw up. Something really stinks in here. It's putrid. It smells putrid in this place. I'm so sorry, trainers. And I also envy so many of you. At least you're not in this horrendous odor. But I know what caused this. Took me a little bit, but I finally realized who our stinky bandits are. Yep, they are some of the most revolting Pokemon you will ever meet. Make sure that you have a filter on your face or a mask that has something good there, because you'll need good sense when you deal with these terrible skunk Pokemon. And our stinky bandits with us today are none other than Stunky and Skuntank. Yeah, you may want to back a little bit far away. This is really gonna smell bad. I think I'm gonna gag. This is some of the most revolting things I have ever smelt. I mean, Trubbish and Garbodor were awful, but I think this is even worse. You really don't want to be around here. I really wish these skunk Pokemon would leave, but I did talk about Team Galactic Commanders, Saturn, and Mars' ace, so I think it's only fair I talk about Team Galactic Commander Jupiter's ace. But I will say this, why did she choose such a horrendous Pokemon for her ace? You know what's so ironic? I was just talking about villainous teams that use a lot of poison and dark-type Pokemon, and then we have Stunky and Skuntank walk into the room, which are the perfect combo of what I said, as these Pokemon are poison and dark-type. I truly see why a lot of villainous teams use this, especially grunts. After all, these are also some of the most wicked and evil Pokemon out there. I don't think I'm just smelling the stench of these Pokemon. I think I'm taking a whiff of evil. Ugh! I really don't want Stunky and Skuntank to spray me. It looks like they're about to. I might have to grab myself a can of tomato juice. I really don't want to smell bad and attract a lot of poison-type Pokemon. So, I think it's best that we cover this line immediately. But before we do that, I want to give a very special thanks to my fellow subscriber, Neptune S. Nova. Sorry I couldn't talk about Piers, but I hope that the second in command of his team, as well as Commander Jupiter, makes you really happy, my friend. But you're not the only one that I'll be thanking today. HTTP Koopa, I want to give you a very special thanks and shout out for my shirt. If you're a fan of Team Yell, or you really like Dark-type Pokemon, I'm wearing Pierre's jersey from Pokemon Sword and Shield. Piers was the first Dark-type gym leader, and since we're talking about Dark-type Pokemon, as well as going on the punk side, I thought this was the most appropriate shirt to wear. If you really like these shirts that I wear, check out HTTP Koopa on Etsy. I have a link to his Etsy page in the description below. If you're not entirely a Pokemon fan, he makes a lot of shirts that some of your favorite cartoon characters and video game characters wear. So please check him up, buy some merch from him, and tell him Professor Palm sent ya. While I may not be sponsored, I still want to give him some good business. And if you think that I look good in these shirts, I think that you'll look even better. Alright trainers, we're about to learn all about our friends, the skunk punks. Make sure that you have yourself a scented candle with matches and maybe a bottle of Febreze. It's really gonna get smelly. But most of all, get yourself a can of tomato juice. You will definitely need it. And let's start off with our friend, the little stinky skunk, Stunky. Oh my goodness, Stunky just sprayed me. Stunky the skunk Pokemon is based on a skunk, specifically the hognose skunk. Stunky also bears resemblance to cats, which is fitting because a baby skunk is known as a kitten. For its habitat, Stunky live in big open fields and forests. They like to be in the shade and they love having a lot of room to run around. However, you'll know that you've entered a Stunky's territory when you get a whiff of that putrid smell it emits from the rear, which can keep out even the biggest of enemies. Wild Stunky are said to be the most unhygienic Pokemon ever. They have filthy and unkempt appearances. This is all due to the fact that nobody has ever shown them how to groom themselves or look good. After all, people and Pokemon are always repulsed by the wicked odors these Pokemon emit. Stunky protects itself by spraying nose-curling noxious fluids from the rear in order to repel its attackers. The smell is so revolting, even the strongest of opponents won't even come near it to battle. Stunky makes its own poison within its stomach. This is all thanks to its diet of sour and spicy berries. It's said that the smellier a Stunky is, the more deadly its poison will be. Also, because of this diet of spicy and sour berries, if you think its rear smells bad, its breath smells even more horrendous. The foul poisonous fluid Stunky releases from its rear is so disgusting, people can smell this stuff over 1.5 miles away. But these fumes are so powerful that the moment even just a small whiff touches your nose, it'll make you queasy. And sometimes it might make you throw up uncontrollably. Honestly, let's be thankful that Stunky's nasty scent already alerts us that one is nearby. So, it's giving us a fair warning that we should leave. Oh, and don't get too close, as one good whiff not only will knock you out and make you queasy, but it could also lead to memory loss. If you happen to get sprayed by these repulsive smelly fluids of a Stunky, you better get yourself a can of tomato juice ready, because these horrendous stenches can linger on you for as long as 24 hours. When backed into a corner and the foul-smelling tactics fail, Stunky bring out a huge surprise. These Pokemon get physical, and despite their size, they're very aggressive and very violent. Stunky know how to stand their ground against all their opponents. Oftentimes, these Pokemon know where the weak points are of their strongest opponents. Despite their size, Stunky oftentimes win a lot of battles, especially against Pokemon that are poison and steel, which really are not affected by their toxins. So, they have no problem getting physical and enjoy when they claim a victory. Even though they may be small, be very careful around Stunky's nails. Not only are they sharp, but because Stunky is surrounded by a lot of poison oftentimes seeps in and stays within the nails. So even a small scratch of a Stunky can be very toxic. While I warn you to stay away and be careful, I advise children most of all to stay far away from a wild Stunky. One good scent of that obnoxious odor could have deadly consequences to children, especially for their systems that can be shut down because of these evil toxins. If you don't mind off-putting odors made by Stunky, they can actually be very loyal partners, as most of the time, Stunky just want non-toxic and non-poison type friends. But you'll have to earn its trust before anything comes, because oftentimes when Stunky are angry or nervous, they let loose. Stunky made its debut in the Diamond and Pearl episode, Sphere of Influence, where it was under the ownership of Officer Jenny. When Team Rocket tried to make off with the Adamant Orb, Stunky took back the orb for Officer Jenny and scared Team Rocket away with its stench ability, which really smelled up the place. In the core series games, while Stunky was never the ace of any trainer, it made plenty of appearances on many Team Galactic Grunts teams. Also in the core series, Stunky is seen as the counterpart to Glameow for many reasons. Starting off with the most obvious, Stunky is a Diamond exclusive, while Glameow is a Pearl exclusive. They both have a 2-stage evolutionary line. Both Stunky and Glameow belong to the same A group, being the Field Group. Both of their final evolutions are used by Team Galactic commanders Mars and Jupiter. And of course, neither Glameow nor Stunky can be found or caught in Platinum. I envy so many of you trainers because you're not in the same room with me. This is one of the most foul-smelling and most disgusting poison Dark-type Pokemon you will ever find. Let me tell you, as revolting and scary as Stunky is, you haven't seen anything yet. It's time to raise the toxicity to a whole new level and go to a new level of darkness. Let's evolve our little Stunky into Skuntank. Oh boy. Yep, it smells even worse now. But trust me, this is one of the most scariest poison-type Pokemon you will ever meet. It truly knows how to be a real punk. Skuntank the skunk Pokemon is based on the Hognose skunk, but its dark, aggressive nature and foul-smelling trait also draws influence from honey badgers. For its habitat, Skuntank live in heavily wooded areas, as it prefers to nest in large prickle bushes. But it doesn't just nest there. Instead, Skuntank dig holes in the ground to make its burrow. These areas smell so horrendous that you'll know that you've entered a Skuntank's territory. Even though Skuntank have a very nice burrow to call their home in a prickle bush, that's rarely enough. They usually like to go from place to place. After all, the seasons change and they need places to stay as well. So, they oftentimes try to take another Pokemon's burrow. Since these Pokemon have such a putrid stench and other Pokemon worry about being sprayed by them, very few others ever put up a fight against a Skuntank. Unlike with its previous evolution in Stunky, who sprays its enemies from the rear, Skuntank sprays from the front. You see, the tip of its tail opens up and sprays its fluid all over, so the tail up on Skuntank is not just for show. Skuntank make their own poisons within their stomach. In Skuntank's belly, it reserves smelly fluid that it shoots from the tip of its tail in battle. As a Skuntank's diet varies, so does the stench and power of their poisonous fluids. In order to make this horrible poison within their stomach, Skuntank eat a lot of sour and spicy berries, melting it with their stomach acid, giving it a very foul odor. It's said that the fluids smell worse the longer it's been stewing in its stomach. If you think you can outrun Skuntank, then think again. Skuntank can spray its vile-smelling fluid from the tip of its tail over 160 feet away. I guess you could say Skuntank is a stinky sniper. If you happen to find a wild Skuntank, do not battle it. Run away. Because Skuntank's fluids are so horrible, and there's a high chance it'll spray you. And if any of that fluid gets on you, you will smell horrendous. In fact, it's said that its heinous fluids stay on you for over 24 hours. So your best bet is to stay outside. But on the bright side, a lot of poison-type Pokemon don't mind the smell. And hey, you could probably make good friends with Trubbish and Garbodor, who love that horrendous smell. Since Skuntank always look ahead, they don't oftentimes look up, and that's its blind spot. Because of this, Skuntank hates flying-type Pokemon, as well as flying-type moves, especially ones that hit them from above. That makes a Skuntank really angry. While Skuntank prefer to use their poison in battle, they're not against getting physical. In fact, Skuntank have incredible strength. Sometimes they're even seen as brutes in the wild, especially with their claws. One good swipe of this claw can do a lot of damage, and they're so sharp that sometimes a Skuntank's sharp claws can slice through even the thickest of trees. Skuntank, when angry, will not stop fighting its enemy until for sure it's down. They will use both their poison and physical power until the fight is won. Also, Skuntank really enjoy claiming a victory. While Skuntank are violent, they're surprisingly rather cool and collected. Even when taking on an opponent, they rarely show any sort of rage or weakness, as they enjoy keeping their opponent scared, as nothing seems to be hurting them or doing any damage to them whatsoever. On a rather ironic note, sometimes the horrible stench of a Skuntank is unbearable that even Skuntank itself is unable to stomach its own putrid fluids. Skuntank made its anime debut in the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Battle Dimension series episode, Double Team Turnover, where it was under the ownership of Team Galactic Commander Jupiter, and throughout the rest of the series, Skuntank was Jupiter's ace. In the core series games, Skuntank is the ace of Team Galactic Commander Jupiter's team. However, Skuntank is also the ace of Warden Melly's team. In the Galar region, Skuntank is the second in command on Gym Leader Piers' team, while in Paldea, Skuntank is the frontrunner of Team Starboss Atticus' team. Also in the core series games, Skuntank is seen as the counterpart to Purugly for many reasons. Starting off with the most obvious, Skuntank is a Diamond exclusive, while Purugly is a Pearl exclusive. They each have a two-stage evolutionary line. Both Skuntank and Purugly belong to the same egg group, being the Field group. Both Purugly and Skuntank are used by Team Galactic commanders, Mars and Jupiter, and of course, neither Purugly nor Skuntank can be caught in Platinum. When Stunky evolves into Skuntank, Immediately, it learns the move Flamethrower right off the bat. Now, Skuntank can have some stomach-churning flames along with its foul-smelling methane in their system that can give you a very poisonous fire that'll leave you poisoned and burned. In Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Time, Darkness, and the Sky, Skuntank is the leader of Team Skull. No, not that Team Skull, but that is a pretty funny Team Skull. That Team Skull, the one that consists of Skuntank, Zubat, and Coughing. Also, this team is a band of thieves. When it comes to the weaknesses of Stunky and Skuntank, being that these Pokemon are Poison Dark-type Pokemon, they only have one weakness, and that of course is to Ground-type attacks. That's pretty good. Even though they only have one weakness, I think it's time to see what gives these Pokemon an edge in the battle. So, let's check out their strengths. When in battle, Stunky and Skuntank, being Poison Dark-type Pokemon, have a couple of strengths that can really give them an edge in a fight. So, if you're going to battle, make sure that Stunky and Skuntank battle Pokemon that are Grass-type, Fairy-type as of Generation 6, Ghost-type, and Psychic-type. But, being that both Stunky and Skuntank are Dark-type Pokemon, Psychic moves won't do any damage to them. They're too dark to see the light. If you happen to catch a wild Stunky or Skuntank in the wild, they can have one of two abilities, being either Stench or Aftermath. Originally, a Stunky and a Skuntank with the ability Stench repelled wild Pokemon with their horrible odors. But, thanks to Generation 5, it changed the ability Stench. Now, Stunky and Skuntank release a foul odor that may cause their opponent to flinch. A Stunky and a Skuntank with the ability Aftermath can be very powerful, as if Stunky or Skuntank are knocked out by an opponent, Aftermath kicks in and takes at least 1/4 HP from their opponent, but only if they're knocked out with a physical move. And for Stunky and Skuntank's hidden ability that was introduced in Generation 9, when unlocked with the ability patch, Stunky and Skuntank have the hidden ability Keen Eye, which prevents either Pokemon from having their accuracy lowered, meaning these Pokemon have really good eyesight. I love Poison-type Pokemon, but to me, Stunky and Skuntank have always stood out, mainly for the fact that if you train these Pokemon right, they can be very powerful, not just with strength, but with their poison. You use the right move and you can really burn down your opponents very quickly, making them a poisonous nightmare. But I would also say that battling Commander Jupiter and a bunch of Team Galactic grunts with these Pokemon really showed me how tough they are. There's a lot of wicked and vile Pokemon out there, but I truly think out of all Poison-type Pokemon, Stunky and Skuntank win, as these Pokemon have the nastiest stench ever. If you smell the air around these Pokemon, I'll tell you this, it's not the stench of their toxins, that's the stench of evil. Seeing that so many villainous teams use a lot of dark and poison-type Pokemon, I find it rather fitting that Stunky and Skuntank are the way they are. And honestly, with how violent and toxic they are, that's the greatest typing that they could possibly be. I'm glad that a lot of villainous teams also keep them on their team. These are definitely good villain Pokemon. The coolest thing about Stunky and Skuntank is they don't always use strength to win. They know that strategy also can really pay off. They use their poison first to burn and also take down their opponent slowly. Then they go in for the physical attack, and when the finishing blow comes, they let the poison finally take its full effect, giving their opponent a toxic knockout. I think it's quite nice that Stunky and Skuntank always try to alert us that they're in their territory, and they can be very patient with us. But if you don't listen and you annoy both Stunky and Skuntank, prepare to smell horrible for the next 24 hours when they spray you, as they make their message loud and clear: you don't mess with the skunk punks. Welcome back, traders. As you can see, I'm just trying to make my lab coat and me smell much better. I smell horrible, and I'm sure I do to all of you. So let's just end this really quickly right now, and I'll just ask you a few questions. When it comes to Poison-type Pokemon, who do you think has the most awful stench? Out of all three Team Galactic commanders, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, who's your favorite, and who do you think has the best and strongest ace? Who's your favorite villainous team as well as villainous team leader? Also, which villainous team do you think was the most successful? Do you think that Stunky and Skuntank deserve regional variants, or do you think that they're perfect the way they are? And finally, who's your favorite Poison-type and Dark-type specialist? And did they use a Skuntank on their team? Also, did they give you a good challenge, or were they a pushover? Well, if you liked what you saw, then please leave a like. If you have any questions, you want to answer any of the questions I throw at you, you want me to talk about another Pokemon line, you want me to talk about something with the Pokemon news, or you want to make a request, then please comment. And as always, if you like what you saw and you want to see more, smash that subscribe button. I am getting out of here. I am about to throw up. So, thanks for watching, trainers. Palm out.